Hello again, I'm Lucky and I'm pursuing my integrated MBA in data science and artificial intelligence from IIT Mandi. And today I'll be studying part 1 and chapter 2, that is the big secret of dealing with people. There is only one way under high heaven to get anybody to do anything. Did you ever stop to think of that? Yes, just one way, and that is by making the other person want to do it. Remember, there is no other way. Of course, you can make someone want to give you his watch by sticking a revolver at his ribs. You can make your employees give you a cooperation until your back is turned by threatening to fire them. You can make a child do what you want to do by a whip or a treat. But these crude methods have sharply desirable repercu- uh, repercussions. The only way I can get you to do anything is by giving you what you want. What do you want? Sigmund Freud said that everything you and I do springs from two motives, the sex urge and the desire to be great. John Dewey, one of the America's most profound philosophers, phrased it a bit differently. Dr. Dewey said that the deepest urge in human nature is the desire to be important. Remember the phrase, the desire to be important. It is significant. You are going to hear a lot about it in this book. What do you want? Not many things, but the few that you wish to do, that you do wish you crave with an instance that will not be denied. Some of the things most people want include health and the preservation of life, food, sleep, money and the things money will buy, life in the hereafter, sexual gratification, the well being of our children, a feeling of importance. Almost all these wants are usually gratified, all except one. But there is one longing almost as deep, almost as imperious as the desire of food or sleep, which is seldom gratified. It is what Freud calls the desire to be great. It is what Dewey calls desire to be important. Lincoln once began a letter saying, "Everybody likes a compliment." William James said, "The deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated." He didn't speak, mind you, of the wish or the desire or the longing to be appreciated. He said that the craving to be appreciated. Here is a gnawing and unfaltered human hunger, and the rare individual who honestly satisfies his this hurt hunger withhold people in the palm of his or her hand, and even the undertaker will be sorry when he dies. The desire for a feeling of importance is one of the chief distinguishing difference between mankind and animals. To illustrate, when I was a farm boy out in Missouri, my father bred Frey dog Jersey hogs to pedigree white-faced cattle. We used to exhibit our hogs and white-faced cattle at the country fairs and livestock shows throughout the Middle West. We won first prize by the score. My father pinned his blue ribbons on a sheet of white muslin, and when friends and visitors came to the house, he would get out the long sheet of muslin. He would hold one end, and I would hold the another while he exhibited the blue ribbons. The hogs didn't care about the ribbons, they had one. But father did. These prizes gave him a feeling of importance. If our ancestors hadn't had this flaming urge of a feeling of importance, civilization would have been impossible. Without it, we should have been just about like animals. If our ancestors hadn't had this flaming urge to feel important or a feeling of importance, civilization would never been possible without it, and we should have been just like animals. It was this desire for a feeling of importance that led an uneducated, poverty-stricken grocery clerk to study some law books and found in the bottom of barrel of household plunder that he had bought for 50 cents. You have probably heard of this glossary clerk named, his name was Lincoln. It was this desire of a feeling of importance that inspired Dickens to write his immortal novels. It was this desire for a feeling of importance that inspired Dickens to write his immortal novels. This desire inspired Sir Christopher Wren to design his symphonies in stone. This desire made Rockefeller amass millions that he never spent, and this same desire made the richest family in your town build a house far too large for its requirements. This desire makes you want to wear the latest styles, drive the latest car, and talk about your brilliant children. It is the desire that lures many boys and girls into joining gangs and engaging into criminal activities. The average young criminal, according to E.P. Mulroney, the one-time police commissioner of New York, is filled with ego, and his first request after arrest is for those lurid newspapers that made him out a hero. The disagreeable prospect of serving time seems remote so long as he can gloat over his likeness, sharing space with pictures of sports figures, movies, and TV stars and politicians. If you tell me how you get the feeling of importance, I'll tell you what you are. That determines your character. This is the most significant thing about you. For example, John D. Rockefeller got his feeling of importance by giving money to erect a modern hospital in Peking, China, to care of millions of poor people whom he had never seen and never would see. Dellinger, on the other hand, got his feeling of importance by being a bandit, a bank robber, and killer. When the FBI agents were hunting him, he dashed into a farmhouse up in Minnesota and said, "I am Dellinger." He was proud of the fact that he was public enemy number one. "I'm not going to hurt you, but I am Dellinger," he said. Yes, the one significant difference between Dillinger and Rockefeller is how they got their feelings of importance. History sparkles with amusing examples of famous people struggling for a feeling of importance. Even George Washington wanted to be called His Mightiness the President of US, and Columbus pleaded for the title Admiral of the Ocean and Viceroy of India. Catherine the Great refused to open letters that were not addressed to Her Imperial Majesty, and Mrs. Lincoln in the White House turned upon Mrs. Grant like a tigress and shouted, "How dare you be seated in my presence until I invite you?" Our millionaires helped finance Admiral Byrd's expedition to the Antarctic in 1928 with the understanding that ranges of icy mountain would be named after them, and Victor Hugo aspired to have nothing less than the city of Paris renamed in his honor. Even Shakespeare, mightiest of the mighty, tried to add lustre to his name by procuring a coat of arms for his family. People sometimes become invalids in order to win sympathy and attention and get a feeling of importance. For example, take Mrs. McLeany. She got a feeling of importance by forcing her husband, the President of US, to neglect important affairs of state while he reclined on bed beside her for hours at a time. His arms about her, soothing her to sleep, she fed her gnawing desire for attention by insisting that he remains with her. While she was having her teeth fixed, and once created a stormy scene when he had to leave. Okay. And once created a stormy scene when he had to leave her alone with the dentist while he kept an appointment with John Hay, his Secretary of State. The writer Mary Roberts Rinehart once told me a bright, vigorous young woman who became an invalid in order to get a feeling of importance. One day, said Mrs. Rinehart, this woman had been obliged to face something, her age perhaps. The lonely years were stretching ahead, and There was little left for her to anticipate. She looked to her bed, and for 10 years, her old mother traveling to the third floor and back, carrying trays, nursing her. The one day the old mother, weary with service, lay down and died. For some weeks the invalid languished. Then she got up, put on her clothing, and resumed living again. Some authorities declared that people may actually go insane in order to find the dreamy land of insanity the feeling of importance that has been denied them in harsh world is reality. There are more patients suffering from mental disease in US than from all diseases others combined. Than from all other diseases combined. What's the cause of insanity? Nobody can answer such a VP question, but we know that certain diseases such as syphilis break down and destroy the brain cells and result in insanity. In fact, about one half of mental disease can be attributed to such physical causes of brain lesions, alcohol, toxins, and injuries. But the other half, and this is the appealing part of the story, the other half of people who go to insane apparently have nothing organically wrong with their brain cells. In postmortem examinations, when their brain tissues are studied under high powered microscopes, these tissues are found to be apparently just as healthy as yours and mine. Why do these people go insane? I put that question to head physician of one of our most important psychiatric hospitals. This doctor who had received the highest honors and the most coveted awards for his knowledge of the subject told me frankly that he don't know why people went insane. Nobody knows for sure, but he says that many people who go insane find in insanity a feeling of importance that they were unable to achieve in the world of reality. Then he told me the story. I have a patient right now whose marriage proved to be a tragedy. She wanted love, sexual gratification, children, and social prestige. But life blasted all her hopes. Her husband did love her. He refused even to eat with her and forced her to serve his meals in his room upstairs. She had no children, no social standing. She went insane, and in her imagination, she divorced her husband and resumed her maiden name. She now believes she has married into English aristocracy and she insists on being called Lady Smith. And as for children, she imagines now that she has a new child every night. Each time I call on her, she says, Doctor, I had a baby last night. Life once wrecked all her dreams, shipped on sharp rocks of reality. But in the sunny fantasies isle of insanity, all her bacchantes race into port of canvas billowing and wind singing through the masts. Tragic? Oh, I don't know. Her physician said to me, if I could stretch out my hand and restore her sanity, I won't do it. She's much happier as she is. If some people are so hungry for a feeling of importance that they actually go insane to get it, imagine what miracle you and I can achieve by giving people honest appreciation this side of insanity. Okay, so appreciation is important and giving people a feeling of importance that is also important. One of the first people in American business to be paid a salary of over $1 million a year when there was no income tax and a person earning $50 a week was considered well off was Charles Schwab. He had been picked by Andrew Carnegie to become the first president of newly formed US Steel Company in 1921 when Schwab was only 38 years old. Schwab later left US Steels to take over the then troubled Bethlehem Steel Company and he rebuilt it into one of the most profitable companies in America. Why did Andrew Carnegie pay $1 million a year or more than $3,000 a day to Charles Schwab? Why? Because Schwab was a genius? No. Because he knew more about the manufacture of steel than other people? Nonsense. Charles Schwab told me himself that he had many men working for him who knew more about the manufacture of steel than he did. Schwab says that he was paid this salary largely because of his ability to deal with people. I asked him now, I asked him how he did it. Here is his secret set down in his own words. Words that ought to be cast in eternal bronze and hung in every home and school, every shop and office in land. Words that children ought to memorize instead of wasting the time memorizing the conjunction of Latin verbs or or the amount of annual rainfall in Brazil. Words that will all but transform your life and mine if we'll only live them. So here are the words. I consider my ability to arouse enthusiasm among my people, Shade Swab, the greatest asset I possess, and the way to develop the best that is in a person is by appreciation and encouragement. There is nothing else that so kills the ambitions of a person as criticism from superiors. I never criticize anyone. I believe in giving a person incentives to work, so I'm anxious to praise but loath to find fault. If I like anything, I'm heartily in approbation and lavish in my praise. That is what Schwab did. But what do average people do? The exact opposite. If they don't like a thing, they bawl out their subordinates. Okay, if they do like it, they say nothing. As the old couplet says, once I did bad, and that I heard ever twice I did good. Okay, once I did bad, and that I heard ever twice I did good, but that I heard never. Once I did bad, and that I heard ever twice I did good, but that I never heard. Okay, so that was all for today. And one important lesson by today's reading is make people feel important or give them a feeling of importance by genuinely appreciating their work or their behavior, anything that you like in them. So that was all for today. Good night. Jai Hind.